The overwhelming number of migrant asylum seekers, they come here to be part of this great American experience.
For the failure of Joe Biden to secure our border, it is unacceptable that our schools have to accept migrants.
60-day limit for migrants with children back in October, so technically that would have expired in December, but
we're welcoming all immigrants, and we do welcome immigrants, but you have to do that legally.
James Madison High School, they don't plan on using that again, but they can't commit to not using other schools.
What happened last night at Madison High School is a perfect example of what not to do. These kids and their families were punished.
Swift relocation of migrants. As the city tries to house thousands of migrants seeking protection, New York City faced anger on Wednesday from parents of children attending the school and others over its plan to shift almost 2,000 migrants from a tent camp to a high school overnight out of fear of an approaching storm. One point of contention was the city's prolonged usage of the tent shelter on an isolated, deserted airport in a part of Brooklyn vulnerable to storm-related coastal flooding. The migrant families were being forcibly relocated from the tent shelter at Floyd Bennett Field in Brooklyn, according to New York City Mayor Eric Adams, out of an abundance of caution to ensure the well-being of those entrusted to our care, given the predicted gusts of up to 70 miles per hour. Adams, a Democrat, said in a statement that the city will ensure that essential services and the highest level of support are provided to all impacted by this decision, even though families are already in the process of temporarily moving. The Floyd Bennett Field Shelter is one of more than 200 locations that New York City has set up to host a wave of migrants that have been flooding the city since 2022. This has been primarily due to the Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott's busing initiative, which aims to tighten border security. Despite being required by law to offer emergency shelter to everyone who requests it, New York has found it difficult to accommodate the thousands of newcomers to the city. It has been recognized for a long time that Floyd Bennett Field is not an appropriate location for a shelter due to the fact that it is exposed to the elements and is located in a remote location from facilities such as schools and transportation.
are the warming buses. There's about 4 of them here parked in the West Loop. You can see
the overwhelming number of migrant asylum seekers, they come here to be part of this great American experience.
At O'Hare Airport, dozens of migrants are still sleeping on the floor. There are still nearly 600 migrants.
After the city decided to use their kids' school to house migrants who had to be evacuated from the Floyd Bennett Field during yesterday's storm.
They were afraid what's going to happen next. Will school be properly sanitized?
That the reason why they're doing it now is because of the unprecedented number of migrants. So essentially they're seeing...
And really rolled out the red carpet for illegal immigration here when they said...
During the night of Tuesday, photographs were captured that showed migrants being let off by yellow school buses while holding young children and carrying bags that contained their belongings through the rain. Tuesday was the day when James Madison High School in Brooklyn informed its students that classes on Wednesday would be held remotely, since the school was being used as a temporary overnight respite center. Our school building will be closed on Wednesday, January 10, and school will be in session remotely for all children, Administrator Jody Cohen stated in a note to families. This decision was made in order to ensure a smooth transition for families who are temporarily sheltering overnight in the facility. A rally was held at the school on Wednesday morning by a few parents in order to express their disapproval of the decision. An individual who asserted that she was the mother of 2 students who were enrolled at the educational establishment referred to the current situation as unacceptable.
City government is commandeering the school to house illegal aliens.
What happened last night at Madison High School is a perfect example of what not to do. These kids and their families were punished.
Here, where a school had to be shut down, not because there was a snowstorm.
At the state of the state, my daughter called me, and that's how I found out what was happening.
For the failure of Joe Biden to secure our border, it is unacceptable that our schools have to accept migrants.
The decision forced the school to shift to remote learning for the day. Jessica Formoso takes a look at how the city is addressing that disruption.
That doesn't affect our local students, our families, our residents, our constituents, New Yorkers.
In her statement, Alina, who did not reveal her last name, expressed her great anger towards the city for putting our children last and prioritizing the migrants instead. A state assemblyman from the region named Michael Novakov, who was also in charge of coordinating the event, expressed his opinion that the decision to relocate the refugees was just really wrong. Anybody who is not a child, including migrants, should not be allowed to attend the school. According to him, Floyd Bennett Field was not a good place for temporary sheltering, and he continued. He said that we can make use of thousands of square feet of abandoned commercial property. During a meeting on Wednesday, Zach Escall, the commissioner of New York City Emergency Management, reported that the school had received bomb threats and hate mail on Wednesday morning. The cops cleared the bomb threat. He declared these are not just reprehensible acts, but also crimes. The National Park Service states that after Hurricane Sandy in 2012, Floyd Bennett Field, which is located along the shore of Jamaica Bay, housed 2,000 troops and was used for disaster relief.
School for students who are supposed to go to school and learn every single day.
But because they needed room for migrants there in the city, we've been talking.
They were going to move these kids, these migrants from Floyd Bennett into their school because some of those parents work.
There seems to be quite a regular stream of people coming back into the camp. I guess it's possible that they've tried to jump the border last night.
And this is where some families will stay and wait for a warm bed, maybe through tomorrow's storm.
You'll come into the arrival center, store your luggage, you receive your next assignment.
Yeah, and obviously not everything about this process is crystal clear right now. One of the big
controversy erupts. Novakov and others argued the necessity to remove people highlighted why the airfield should not be used as a shelter. The last-minute evacuation further proves that Floyd Bennett Field, a facility mired in a flood zone, miles from schools and other services, has never and will never serve as an appropriate and safe place to shelter families with children, according to a statement released on Tuesday by the Legal Aid Society and the Coalition for the Homeless. Concerning whether the relocation would be traumatic and disruptive for the immigrant families, advocacy groups raised doubts. The organization stated, "We fear that this is only a precursor of more problems to come, especially with more inclement weather predicted this winter. We again urge the city to cease placing families with children at this facility." Because of the airfield's susceptibility to weather, New York City Councilwoman Ina Vernikov stated that the city's choice was both unacceptable and entirely foreseeable. Vernikov expressed his rightful concern for the roughly 4,000 pupils at James Madison and urged the city to cease using public schools as shelters. Local residents will be agitated. The entire school environment will be disrupted.
We're welcoming all immigrants, and we do welcome immigrants, but you have to do that legally.
Very upset that the students at this school, 3,600 students, are learning remotely today.
Sustainable, it's unacceptable. We're about to spend $12 billion on this crisis.
This school should not be used. It's a sectionary for the learning.
A toll on our local resources, specifically our police force and our fire department.
60-day limit for migrants with children back in October. So technically that would have expired in December, but...
Right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And then they had to completely rearrange their day because their kids now were home.
And our families, students, school administrators, and staff will be greatly burdened, she said. Outside the school, South Bronx Mutual Aid organizer Desiree Joy Frias stated that the city needs to concentrate on moving people into permanent shelters so they can start getting jobs. "We don't treat people like that. They are not livestock. They are not domesticated animals," she stated. "They are human beings with lives, children, and fundamental human rights." According to Iskal, during a briefing on Wednesday, New York City has taken in over 170,000 asylum seekers since April 2022 and has about 70,000 in its care at the moment, on top of the homeless population. According to the city, in fiscal year 2024, it plans to spend $4.7 billion on providing food, lodging, and other amenities to asylum seekers. All of us understand in the city that Floyd Bennett Field is not an ideal place to be housing families with children.
Creates the opportunity to build up the infrastructure you need for all the unhoused folks in the city.
James Madison High School, they don't plan on using that again, but they can't commit to not using other schools.
Bulldoze down their makeshift tents and move people on. Now, around 100 of these migrants have come back to this camp here.
Questions is what happens to families that don't get a spot right away? Will they be left out here on the street?
Thousands of migrants rushing to reapply for city housing with the 60-day shelter limit, forcing families out of their current accommodation.
Migrants never went through the metal detectors, right? So we have no idea what these people might bring.
And there's a numerical small number who would do something violent like that, and we're going to carry out.
Iskall stated during the briefing. He declared, "The city has done an amazing job making that place work." Iskall reported that following the National Weather Service's all clear, all of the migrant families were moved back into the tent shelter for the night, starting at about 1:30 a.m. on Wednesday. According to him, most individuals were bussed out between 3 and 4 in the morning. He stated that the city does not intend to use James Madison High School again, and is creating backup plans in case the tent shelter needs to be removed once more. He declared, "No one wants to interfere with the lives of asylum seekers or our students, parents, teachers, or principals."
Thousands of immigrants to be evacuated from their temporary housing on Tuesday.
Yeah, rain, high winds pushing through Newark. The city brought the migrants in, and they were greeted by their new neighbors.
Our kids supposed to be here feeling safe and be able to learn.
You're not welcome!
That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.